bookish friends, my name is Jackie and welcome back to my channel. So today I decided it's time to reorganize and refresh my bookshelves again. Even though the spring season has come and gone, I still think that I need to reorganize my bookshelves. I recently got a new puppy and he is 3 months old and he doesn't have access to this bookshelf back here, but my bookshelf that's in my bedroom, he has been starting to try to explore it. So I do need to remove the books from that bottom shelf and do some changes. And I just wanted to take you guys along for the ride so you can see some of the changes that I want to do. I also want to change some of the books that I have on the top shelf behind me in order to make it more color-coded and fit the scheme better, because I don't like that it's just random books up there. So I'm going to reorganize everything and take you along with me. All right, so first I thought I'd give you a little bit of an overview of what the main bookcase looks like right now. So this is what it's looking like, and then this is the top shelf that I mentioned. I'm going to be changing these books to be all white and cream books, and then I added in this Arc de Triomphe sketch that I got when I went to Paris. And then at the top I also put in these plush dogs and this mug. I needed to put these decorations somewhere else because they were taking up space where the books will be going in the other room. So I want to make sure that I have space for the books in a place where my puppy can't reach them. So those are up there. That's going to change. And then moving on down, I think the only other changes I made was I put these plants here, and then I put these 2 mugs down here that says introvert, extrovert, booktrovert, and then this Pisces mug as well. And that's kind of the only changes that I've made to this shelf. And I'll show you when I reorganize that top shelf later on as well. All right, so this is kind of the current state of this bookshelf. As you can see, the bottom is full of books and my puppy has access to that. So I'm going to be taking all those books out of there and putting in his toys and things like that instead, just making it more puppy friendly. And then the middle shelf will stay the same because he isn't really interested in that. And the top shelf he can't reach. So those are going to be staying the same for the most part. I am going to be putting in that mug there that says falling into books and finding a way of fitting that into that middle shelf somehow, because I'm going to be reorganizing all of that. And then all those books down there will be his toys and everything, and then I'll speed through me fixing this up. All right, so this is going to be the other shelf space that I'm working with. This is actually a dresser, and you can see there's a book right up there, but there's all these stacks of books here. So I will be doing a book haul soon of all of these books out front here, and then all of these decorations are going to move down to this bottom shelf, and then these top 2 shelves and then the top of the dresser as well will be spaces for my books. All right, so I'm going to be moving all the books and all the other miscellaneous items on this shelf onto this bed, and then I'm going to reorganize all the books, put my decorations from this shelf and move them onto this bottom shelf, and then also put the books on this shelf, that top shelf, and then the very top of the bookcase as well. And I'll speed you through the whole process of me reorganizing everything just so you can see how it all happens. All right, if you see that next to the bed, that is my dog's kennel, so please ignore that. But on the bed, I do have all the books that I need to haul there, and then all these other random miscellaneous things that I've kind of been gathering at the base of that bookshelf. And I think what I want to do is I want to do this in stages. So I want to move all this stuff and reallocate it in a shelf somewhere else first. And then I'm going to put all these other books over here, move them up because these are already organized by genre and I don't want to have to reorganize all of that. So I think I'm going to organize these first, show you that whole process, and then I'll show you me putting everything away. So now I can show you all the stacks. So this right here is like middle grade books. These are more like literary fiction books. That is a comic or graphic novel, and that is a historical fiction. Those 2 books right there are young adult. That's some historical fiction. That's going to be sci-fi and fantasy. Those are just some extra like coffee table books right there. Back there I have my dystopians. There I have romances, and there I have like mystery thrillers. I don't think I categorized these perfectly, but I did my best, and I'm going to be putting these on the shelf over here. I also have Bury Our Bones in Midnight Soil, which I think that one is like fantasy or maybe a historical fantasy. And then all of these books down here, I already have them categorized. So I'm going to be putting these books in first, and then I'm going to put in the rest of these books up on those shelves. Alright, as you can now see, this entire shelf is empty. I was just clearing it off. So I'm going to be cleaning each of the shelves as I go, just to make sure that everything is nice, clean, and refreshed. Alright, I'm going to be moving the books from this shelf off of the shelf as well. And I'm going to put these on the other shelf. I think I'm going to put these all the way at the very, very top. And I've already started the process, so I have a stack here going. But I'm just pulling them all out. And then I'm going to show you as I put them in at the top of my dresser. Alright, so this shelf is now entirely cleared off. I'm going to be cleaning this off, and then I'm going to be putting my dog's toys and things like that on this shelf so that he has easy access to it. He's been really curious about my books, and he's been like sniffing them and trying to bite them and everything, so I don't want any damage to come to them. Alright, so all those books that I took off from that bottom bookshelf are going to go on the top of that dresser over there. So I'm going to be just speeding you through putting up all of the nonfiction books, because that's what was on that shelf, and that's going to go up there first, and then we'll see how much space I have left. Alright, so this is what the nonfiction books look like. I realized that some of the books that were on that shelf were actually historical fiction. So I'm going to phase into historical fiction at the end of the top shelf right here. But so far, this is what it's looking like. I did have to put a bookend here because the books were falling down, but I'm liking where it is so far. I don't tend to reach for these books too often, so it makes sense to have them up here. Alright, so I finished organizing on the top right there. So I did all of my nonfictions in the left, and then I slowly transitioned into some historical fiction. And then since I had a little bit of extra space on the shelf, at the end I added in my comics and graphic novels. So they're all up there, and the shelf is pretty full now. I think that it makes sense to put the comics there, even though it's a little bit high up, because I don't have too many of them yet. And I like the way that this shelf has turned out. I think it's a really good use of space, and this shelf used to be empty, so it makes sense to use it up now. Next, I'm going to be moving on to this shelf right here, and I'm going to be showing you the whole process of me organizing this and which genres of books I put here. I'm not too sure what I want to move on to down here. Maybe I will go into my fantasy books first, so fantasy, dystopian, and mystery thrillers. We'll go somewhere around here. I think I'd like to start with mystery thrillers, then do fantasy and dystopian and sci-fi together. And then in this shelf, I'll do my romances, so that'll be contemporary romances and historical romances. And then, like I said, this bottom part is going to be decorations. So I'm gonna speed you through putting in the books on this shelf. And yes, it's already cleaned. I cleaned that earlier, so it's good to go. Okay, so I just remembered that I also had some mysteries, thrillers, and some other books that were hidden, and they were in a second layer in the bottom shelf in the other room, so I wanted to bring them over. So that's what all of those books are behind me. And it doesn't make sense for me to have my books double stacked or anything like that when I still have shelf space open. I only did that before because I didn't have any open shelf space, but I clearly have some still here, so I want to use all that up, and I have a lot of space on this shelf next to me too. So I'm going to add these books in the corresponding places on the shelves up here so that it's all together and it'll make the most sense to me. Alright, so I wanted to give you a brief overview of what things are looking like now. So on this end, we have all of my historical romances, including the ones that I pulled out from the other shelf when they were double stacked. And then from the Time Traveler's Wife to the end of the shelf, these are just some contemporary romances. I don't have too many of them here, but most of them are on my main shelf. These are just like some excess titles that don't really fit over there. And I'll probably be doing some reshuffling at some point of which titles end up here and which ones are over there, because I do like to change up which titles I have on my main shelf, especially if they are ones that I really end up enjoying. And then up here we have all of my mysteries and thrillers. I added in a couple on top over here because I ran out of space. And then I have my literary fiction. This is my middle grade book, and then I have one middle grade on top because I ran out of space. And then over here at the end we have my YA books. And then those two books I just have to put away, but those are non-fictions. At the bottom of the bookcase so far we have a few more fantasy titles and this contemporary book, which I need to find a place for it. But all of these like fantasy titles are gonna go on this bookshelf over here. I have an entire free shelf up there, so I'm gonna have so much space. And then I think that's actually a romance book, so that needs to come over here on this shelf, and that's gonna be what's gonna go on that shelf right there. And then I'm going to change things up a little bit, so I'm gonna spread it out a little more so I can have some decorations on those two shelves. That mug is gonna be on that top shelf as part of the decoration. I just have to figure out how to incorporate it. And that over there is my reading journal that I recently set up, and I will be showing you that in another video. So I have some miscellaneous things still hanging around. On the bed, I still have some fantasy titles too, and I actually have some historical fictions right here that I do need to add to this romance shelf here. So now I'm going to arrange this bottom shelf with my decorations since all the books have places. I put some books up here. So I put my extra historical romances up there and an extra just regular contemporary romance here. Later on, this will probably change, but for now I didn't want to move all these books and try to find them a new home. So it just made sense to put them right on top of there. And then I'm gonna put all the decorations here, so I'll speed you through that process. So I organized this bottom shelf and now it's all my decorations. So on this end, I have just a couple of like more decorative books. This is my astrology and psychology 101 books. And then this is one of my jewelry organizers. If you don't know this about me, I'm big into jewelry. I'm always wearing different jewelry all the time. So I have different drawers and compartments here of my jewelry. And then I have more jewelry up here, a fan, a little holder for rings and things like that for jewelry. This is a bracelet and a necklace holder for jewelry. another jewelry box, more jewelry on top of this. I have a large collection of jewelry. I need to put some of my jewelry out on this to display it. And then over here we move over and we have my collection of snow globes. So for a number of years I've been collecting snow globes as I travel. So in every major country I go to, and then in some of the cities I get snow globes. I have, I think, 10 or 12 in my collection so far, so I'm looking to add to it always, of course. And then I have this little like art easel print thing from Porto, Portugal. And then back there I just have some nail polishes, and this is a candle that I have, and the lighter here. Obviously the lighter is in a little bit of a precarious spot, so I will be moving that, but that's kind of what it looks like right now. And this is just a general overview. I'm pretty happy with it. This shelf is a little bit crowded, but I think it's the best way to just kind of fit all of these things in. And these are all of my random decorations. I used to have them spread out across more shelves of this dresser, but as my book collection has grown, I've kind of needed to take that space up for the books. So I just kind of consolidated it all into one shelf here, and it's a little crowded, but it works. So now I just have this stuff to deal with, and some of this is just garbage that I need to throw out. And then I have this journal, which is the journal that I use for my book reviews. All those papers are from like ARCs and early copies that I've received of books, and they're like little informations about the publisher, the author, all of their social media and all of that to share on there. I'm going to just start with the books. I'm going to put these books over here onto this shelf behind me. As you can see, I have a bunch of space here. This shelf is looking a little bit sparse since I removed a lot of titles from here. I took off all the romances and everything like that, so I have plenty of space for more fantasies and dystopian and all that on these shelves. And that's what all those books on my bed are. They are fantasies and dystopians. So I'm going to be filling up this shelf and then kind of doing some rearranging with that shelf down there. And as you can see, that's a little sneak peek at my reading journal and a little sticker book that I have for it. And of course, I'm going to be finding a way of incorporating this mug that says falling into books, and I'll speed you through this. Alright, so this is what the shelf looks like now. This is the bottom shelf. And moving on up, we move into the first fantasy, sci-fi, and dystopian shelf. So on the left side, up until that point, we have just fantasy books. These are all more supernatural fantasies. And then from that book to right over there, right before the Words of Dr. L, those 4 books are sci-fi. And then the Words of Dr. L, Divergent, and the Hunger Games series are dystopian books, of course. And then we move on up to the other shelf, and this is more fantasy. To the left, it's just some standard fantasies, and then to the right, I kind of phased into supernatural fantasies, and I added in my falling into books mug there, and I'm really pleased with how this has turned out. I did not realize that I had so many fantasy books, but it makes sense because it's one of my favorite genres, and I'm glad to have them all together on this bookcase. I have a few more things hanging around, and I do want to do some more reorganizing of like colors in the other shelf, but for now, I'm pretty happy with how this looks, and I like that the bottom shelf is no longer books, so my puppy can't get into that. I have to find places for like 2 contemporary books and a few other things, but I'm pretty pleased with how this has turned out. We have the first shelf there. That is supposed to be like my white and light colored shelf, but I did want to put my selection series together, and then I did start adding like 2 or 3 yellow titles to the end of it. And then I also have that nice art sketch there of the Notre Dame from Paris. And then going down, we get into like my yellow and orange shelf. So this was more orange before, but it's now yellow, orange, and then fades into like pink. All right, so here is my pink, red, and green shelf. This is more pink and green before, but now I kind of expanded the red section and I moved some of the pink books up to the shelf above it. And then moving on down, we have my green and blue shelf. So this is kind of the green colors continued into the blue. I also kind of expanded on this shelf and added more titles to that. And then at the bottom there, we have my purple shelf. So this is purples, and I added so many books to make it more blue blue and purple, then a little bit of brown, and then it fades to black. I did remove a lot of the black books that I had on this shelf, and they will be going in the other room because a lot of them were fantasy books, and I wanted my bookcase to look more rainbow colored than it did before. So I will be doing some more reorganizing to make the colors flow better because I feel like the purples just kind of look out of order and they don't look quite so organized, so I want to fix that. And then my bottom shelf, of course, is just my classics. So I have all my special edition classics down there, and even just some regular editions of classics and my Outlander books as well. Alright, so that's gonna be it for me for this video. I hope that you've enjoyed seeing my bookshelf reorganization. I desperately needed to do this, so I'm so glad that I finally got around to doing it, and now the bottom shelf is more puppy proof. And I want to say a big thank you if you made it to this point in the video. I appreciate each and every one of you that watches my videos, and wherever you are in the world, whether it's morning, afternoon, or evening, I hope that you are doing well, and I'll see you for another one soon. Bye!